Good afternoon and a warm welcome to everyone listening in. Thank you so much for joining us on this webinar, Introduction to CIWEM Membership. My name is Barbara Orth. I am Membership and Professional Standards Executive here at CIWEM, and I am delighted to be moderating today's webinar. Now, after we've had our presentation around membership and everything that relates to it, be it our various membership grades or the application processes, we will open the floor to questions from the audience. Now, we would love to see lots of Q&A activity. You can interact with us privately by opening your in-meeting chat and sending a message, or by posting in the question and answer section. You will have received some joining instructions explaining this in more details, but if you do experience any technical difficulties, please give us a shout and we will try to help to the best of our ability. I am very pleased to introduce Sophie Deniko as our speaker today. Now, Sophie is Head of Membership and Professional Standards here at CIWEM, as well as a member herself. So really, who better to talk us through all things CIWEM membership? Welcome, Sophie, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Barbara. Good afternoon, everybody.
So without further ado, Sophie, are you okay to kick us off by telling us a little bit about who CIWEM are?
Yes, of course. So I'll just kick things off, giving us a brief introduction to CIWEM for those that perhaps don't quite know who we are yet, before we go into a little bit more detail about our membership grades and how to get involved. So CIWEM represents and supports a community of thousands of individual members and organisations in over 90 countries. Our members are dedicated to improving water and environmental management for the benefit of the public, and they hold a variety of roles and join us throughout their career, from students onto kind of fellows and beyond, really. Our aim is to work towards a safer, more sustainable world, and our mission is to continue to build our global community of water and environmental professionals who are dedicated to working for the public benefit and leading in the global transition to a sustainable economy.
That sounds excellent, all very exciting stuff. Now, for those audience members who are new to CIWEM and are maybe wondering why they should join as members, could you perhaps detail a bit further what we have to offer?
Of course. So becoming a member of CIWEM gives you a globally recognised demonstration of your professional and technical abilities. At CIWEM, we champion highly qualified water and environmental managers, engineers and scientists working across all aspects of the environment and water sector. Our members are recognised throughout the world for their professional expertise and conduct. Our member grades and qualifications add value and recognition to your achievements, and we actively help you enhance your career and build your professional networks through a range of activities. These include our varied events programmes, including conferences, webinars and technical seminars, more formal training courses, our active policy networks. These cover all aspects of our members' interests, university accreditation, our publications, including our member magazine, The Environment, and highly regarded peer-reviewed journals, the Journal of Flood Risk Management and Water and Environment Journal. There's also opportunities to get involved and support other members throughout their careers, from our branch networks, our awards, our STEM work, boards and committees, and also our membership volunteers who safeguard our professional standards and support other members throughout their journey with CIWEM.
Excellent. And just following up on that, if maybe some audience members are wondering in terms of what grade of membership they should join, depending on where they are in their professional development, could you just talk us through our various membership grades?
Of course. So I've said previously, you can join us at any stage in your career, whether you're studying, actively looking to progress, or already have extensive experience. So we'll just go through each of these grades in turn now, starting off with our student and apprentice members. I'll provide a little bit of outline on the application process for each of these grades before we'll spend a little bit more time discussing chartership and the chartership application in detail. So for those at the early stages of their career, either at university or undergoing apprenticeship, our student and apprenticeship grades are the ones for you. These are for those that are looking to gain the most of their studies and become an attractive for any future employers. Membership application for these grades couldn't be simpler. It's all undertaken online through our CIWEM membership area. And for student and apprenticeship membership, it just involves uploading a few details about yourself, who you are, where you're studying, and proof against that as well. So either confirmation of your apprenticeship or your degree, and any finish dates as well, so we know when you're kind of ready to move on to the next grade of membership. And when you finished your studies, you can move on to graduate membership. So our graduates are those that have either just recently graduated or perhaps in the first 1 or 2 years of their career and are looking to get involved, begin to build your professional networks and accelerate your career by joining an organisation such as ourselves. Also, our environmental partnership grade of membership may be applicable for you. This is for non-chartered members from any background. So if you don't have a background in the water environmental sector or have perhaps joined it a little bit later in your career. And this is also applicable for those that are just interested in getting engaged, staying abreast and hearing the latest guidance, developments and independent information from ourselves. So again, the application for these grades is really simple. It's all done online in a written application. Pretty much the same information you have to provide for the student and apprentice grades of membership. But if you have graduated, we do ask as well for you to upload your degree transcripts and certificates as well, just so we've got proof of that. An application for all of these grades of membership we've discussed so far can be undertaken at any time, and you should hear back from us pretty quickly with confirmation and then really start making the most of those benefits from getting our magazine to start attending some of our events, training and also looking at other activities and getting involved as well. So then we go on to our CIWEM grade of membership. This is our kind of first grade of membership that provides real professional recognition of your achievements and allows you to engage with people, experiences that perhaps you might not otherwise have access to and continue your development. Our non-chartered members, our CIWEMs, are typically have been working for about 2 years and are perhaps thinking about chartership down the line at the 5 or so year point, but are really looking to kind of build up their knowledge and skills to get there. Again, the application of CIWEM is really simple and all undertaken online. In addition to all that previous information that you've been asked to provide for student, apprentice or graduate membership, you also, for CIWEM, have to write a short 500-word report which details the skills and knowledge you've gained during your water and environment career. This report must be written in the first person and demonstrate your responsibility in the sector, and also identify any kind of projects or pieces of work for which you've had a key part and describe your roles and responsibilities in these. The report should also describe an understanding of the environmental drivers and issues surrounding your work, as well as your role in promoting good environmental practice. This report, along with the rest of your application, then goes off to be peer reviewed by our assessor panels. They'll kind of confirm that you're at a stage in your career where you're ready to be a non-chartered member. And again, you should hear back reasonably quickly after you've applied on the outcome, and then again start making the most of your membership. For those that perhaps don't have the kind of academic background that's required for a CIWEM application, then technician membership is the grade for you. Again, for those kind of earlier on in their career, not quite ready to become chartered yet. The technician application is a little bit more detailed. You do have to, during this application, write a statement against each one of our 14 mandatory competencies. And we'll talk about those in a little bit more detail when we look at chartership. So chartership. So this is the kind of globally recognised qualification that comes with real status. It's an achievement that you can be genuinely proud of and makes a clear statement about your professional identity and the nature of your expertise, opening career opportunities and provides assurances to others of your exceptional competence. So not only with CIWEM will you can become a chartered water and environmental manager, you can also gain a number of additional registrations as well, including chartered engineer, chartered environmentalist and chartered scientist too. So the applications for these can all be detailed in the same written application. And again, I'll touch on this in a little bit more detail in a moment. Then finally, fellow membership. So this is really the ultimate expression of your achievements in the sector and recognition of your kind of high standing and regard by your peers. Our fellows are the go-to people, and this brings opportunities on the most rewarding activities, from both getting involved with our members, our committees, to really contributing to the industry in a much more wide sense. Now, there are a number of ways you can join us as a fellow. For those that are completely new to CIWEM, you can join via our direct entry route. So this involves getting your chartership at the same time. It's essentially the same application as this, but you do just have to write an additional extra statement on why you should become a fellow. For those that are already chartered with CIWEM, you can look to transfer your grade across to fellow membership. And for this, it really is just that additional statement that you have to provide. Now, perhaps let's go and talk about the chartership process in a little bit more detail. So our chartered members are typically those that have been working for around 5 years. There's no hard and fast rule alongside that timeline. Really, it's just the level of experience that we found over time our members have gained to meet the competencies and have the kind of relevant experience and responsibilities to do so. Typically, chartered members also have an honours degree from either a UK or equivalent university overseas. However, for those that don't have that background, then you can apply via the work-based learning route. And again, I'll touch on that in a little bit more detail in a moment. So the application for chartered membership is in 2 stages. First off, you have to complete an online application. This includes uploading some basic information about yourself and also a career overview report and mandatory competency attainment report, alongside a few little additional alongside some additional information that again we'll go through in a bit more detail in a moment. The second part of the chartered membership application is a peer-reviewed interview. So once you've submitted your written application, that will go on to be assessed by our reviewers. And if you're successful, you'll be invited to attend an interview. And this is really an opportunity for you to further showcase your experience and your skills with our volunteer interviewers. So the applications for chartership are run on a cyclical basis across the year. So we have application deadlines pretty much every other month or so. And this really gives you an idea of when you might hear back and expect to undertake your interview. So if we take our upcoming application deadline, that's at the beginning of April, for example, if you submit in time for that deadline, then your application will go on to be assessed during April, and you'll hear back later on in May of whether you've been successful or not, then undertake your PRI interview in the following month or so. And then hear the final result usually a few weeks after your interview. So as I've said, alongside your application for CIWEM, you can also apply for these additional registrations. Again, that's undertaken in the same application. You don't have to do these separately. However, if you are looking to get your C.1 first and then perhaps an additional registration down the line, that's perfectly fine as well. So you can look at one at a time if that's your preference. For each of these additional registrations, in addition to the C.WEM mandatory competency attainment report, you also have to write a statement against each of the competencies that are applicable for each of the registrations you're looking to apply for. So while you might cover the same areas, you need to really have a focus on the chartership that you're looking to get and tailor those for that. So that written application, there's a number of parts to it. We'll just touch on those in a bit more detail and then go and talk about the MCs and then the professional review interview. So the C.WEM application kicks off again with your CV and academic qualifications alongside that basic information about yourself. The C.WEM application, really, I think the best way to think about it is a bit like a funnel. So we start off very broad, thinking about your kind of roles, responsibilities in your CV, and as we move through, pick up more detail and specifics about your role. So the next part of the written application is your career overview report. This is a 1,000-word report that's the opportunity to provide a bit of more of a detailed narrative around your CV. In this, you should tell us the skills, qualities, knowledge you've gained so far in your career and cover 6 key areas. So the duration of your employment, your job title, your employer, roles and responsibilities, and your involvement in making key decisions and recommendations and learning topics. So these may cover the various projects you've been involved in and the key learning topics of that, both positive and negative. It's always important to reflect on where things have perhaps not gone so well. Then the mandatory competency attainment report. This is the kind of biggest and perhaps most time-consuming part of the application. It's a 4,000 word report in total that covers each one of the 14 CIWEM mandatory competencies. And really how you choose to split these up is down to you. We'll go through these in a moment and you'll see that some of them may kind of take fewer words where others might kind of consume a little bit more of that word count. Typically applicants will pick on 1 or 2 or maybe 3 projects or pieces of work they've been involved with throughout their competency attainment report to ensure that there's kind of a flow through it and you don't have to kind of repeatedly introduce things. So the mandatory competence attainment report really is about you as an individual. It's your opportunity to tell us the skills and knowledge you've gained using examples from your practical experience to demonstrate the appropriate level of achievement for each competence. And here you can include additional information such as images and diagrams that you feel would support your responses. However, do use these sparingly and only when they're kind of really add to your narrative here. Your responses need to be written in the first person and again identify the kind of roles you've taken, what you've done and what you have learned. And if you've worked as part of a team, which I'm sure many people do, please do describe what your kind of personal involvement was and the kind of contributions you've made and the impact of those as well. So here are the kind of 5 key areas that our competencies cover. I'll just kind of run through these very briefly now. So the A competencies cover existing and emerging factors influencing environmental issues. So this is your knowledge of wider environmental issues and trends and your ability to develop strategies and plans to address changes in your sector. So the first competence here really covers all aspects of kind of the environment of water sector beyond your day-to-day role and your understanding of the drivers and the trends in those. The B competencies look at planning, implementation and evaluation of work. So these cover your ability to analyse and evaluate environmental and water problems, the ability to solve problems by identifying and evaluating options, your ability to initiate and manage change, and your ability to plan and implement solutions and monitor their continuing performance. So the C competencies look at safe and effective working practices. So this is looking at managing resources efficiently and effectively, be it your team or budgets, understanding the promotion and application of health and safety. And this covers everything from site work and the health and safety kind of implications that you might have there, to equally, if you're more desk-based, there's still kind of things that need to be considered. The C competencies also look at your contribution to sustainability and your understanding and enhancement of quality assurance. So the D competencies look at communication and professional ethics. So this is your ability to communicate in English. So this is perhaps one of those competencies that might use kind of a smaller proportion of that word count, because obviously it's demonstrated throughout your application. But equally, this is a great opportunity to showcase perhaps any presentations that you've given, role in chairing meetings or events, that kind of thing. Here we also have a competence that covers your professionalism, kind of ethics, and comply with the relevant code of conduct. So do read through the CIWEM Code of Conduct and Professional Ethics and refer to that one here. And finally, the E competencies look at your professional development. So this is demonstrating your continuing professional development. This is a requirement for your application that I'll introduce in a little bit more detail in a moment, and the additional information that you have to provide to cover your CPD. And finally, the last competency looks at your commitment to CIWEM. So this could be things you're perhaps already involved with, supporting your local branch, attending events, reading or writing for a magazine, but equally things that you might be interested in getting more involved in the future. If we perhaps go back now to the slide that details the different stages of the different requirements of the written application, we'll just touch on the two final points here. So your CPD record, for your C.WEM application, you do need to submit 90 hours of CPD over a 3-year period. This can sound like an awful lot on first reading. However, this is really kind of broken down both over a reasonable period and also covers a really wide variety of activities, from formal on the job training, be it in person or potentially for the moment things being a little bit more digital and virtual, to reading relevant information, again from our magazine journals, to wider industry news, engaging in the organisation of events, delivering training to your colleagues. Really, it's a broad range of activities. And the key part here not only is recording these activities, but also reflecting on them as well and identify your kind of key learning points. And this is something that once you've gained your chartership, you'll have to continue on a yearly basis as well. For all of our charterships, not just C.WEM, but the others as well, we do have requirements for ongoing reflection of your CPD, and you might be audited on those in the future. So it's really good, something to keep up to date with. And for those that are perhaps not quite ready for chartership yet, it's a great thing to start off as early as possible and kind of keep on top of, because at the last minute it potentially could be a bit of an undertaking. And finally, your sponsors. So for both C.WEM and CIWEM, you do need two sponsors to support your application. These are a key part of the kind of peer reviewing process for professional registration and joining CIWEM. The sponsors are required to support the applicant when they're applying for, as I said, both CIWEM and C.WEM, and they're really kind of agreeing with their knowledge of you and kind of potentially working with you, either in your day-to-day job or in another kind of aspects, that you're the kind of appropriate level and of sound character for the grade you're applying for. So really, we look for those sponsors to be chartered with CIWEM. However, there can be a little bit of flexibility of that requirement. For CIWEM, really, if you've got one sponsor that's chartered with CIWEM and another one that's perhaps at a lower grade of membership, then that's absolutely fine. For CIWEM, your applicants really should be chartered with CIWEM. However, again, if you're struggling to find a second chartered member that's chartered with us, then they can be chartered with another institution. And it's important to note here that if you are applying for any of the additional registrations, then you do need sponsors that support those as well. So if you're perhaps looking at 4 charterships, but only know people that hold kind of one of those individually, then you can have kind of additional sponsors to support those applications. One of your sponsors also does need to validate your certificates. So your degree transcripts or any other certificates that you might be uploading to support your application. And this is just a verification point for ourselves. Obviously, at the moment, might be a little bit difficult to do physically, getting people to sign kind of copies of them. However, if you are struggling with that, then that's something we can kind of accept digitally. So do get in touch with us if you're struggling on that point. So, as I've said, that's the written application. Once you've submitted that, it will be assessed by our volunteer assessors, who will come back hopefully with good news for you that you're successful and will be invited to the professional review interview. However, if for any reason you haven't quite met those competencies, you will be provided feedback. It's certainly not a closed door at that point. You can resubmit at any time, and the assessors will either give you feedback on individual competencies, if there's just kind of one part where you've perhaps not shown the examples that you need to, or provide a little bit of a broader feedback. That might be going back to your sponsors or potentially mentors for a little bit more support, or equally maybe advising you that you're perhaps not quite ready to be chartered yet and just need a little bit more experience in your role. So if we perhaps could now move on to the PRI slides, we'll just talk about that in a little bit more detail. So the professional review interview is the kind of final step in becoming chartered, and the opportunity for you again to demonstrate that you've got the level of ability, experience and knowledge, as well as personal development that's required to become chartered. The interview will build on the information you've provided during your written application, and also provide the opportunity for you to showcase any additional expertise and abilities, and also anything that you've done in the period from submitting your application. So the PRI interview is split into 3 sections. You'll be interviewed by 2 or 3, usually it's 3 members of our interview panel. That will be undertaken, is typically undertaken face-to-face in the CIWEM office. However, in at least the immediate future, we'll be undertaking kind of all of our professional reviews virtually, so everyone can still move forward with their applications. So the first part of the interview is just an opportunity to kind of meet and greet your interviewers, and also provide some kind of initial introductions about yourself. So here the interviewers will ask you to provide a bit of a personal history and give an overview of your kind of key points of career progression that you've noted in your career overview report. This usually lasts between about 5 and 10 minutes. Then it moves on to the professional presentation aspect of the interview. So before your interview, you'll be asked by one of the members of the CIWEM membership team to ensure you've prepared a 10-minute presentation to introduce projects or pieces of work you've personally been involved in, and often they're ones you've referenced in your mandatory competency attainment report. And this can be delivered by a PowerPoint or sometimes we do see people just giving this verbally. We typically recommend no more than kind of 3 projects are used during the presentation. That's really just because it's such a short time. It's hard to kind of include more information than that and still give you the opportunity to go into a little bit of detail. We are quite strict on the 10-minute rule on this, so if you do go over, the interviewers will kindly ask you to stop. But you will get a kind of a 2-minute warning just to give you an indication of how we're getting on. And then immediately following the 10-minute presentation, the interviewers will ask you any kind of technical questions about your presentation, covering the various mandatory competencies, before opening the interview up to cover anything else that you've perhaps not covered in your professional interview but mentioned in the competencies, and ensure you've achieved all of the MCs, both for CIWEM and any of the additional charterships you've applied for. They'll then go on to asking you a few more broader questions about the sector. So these could be things that you perhaps get involved with outside of work, or just your general knowledge of kind of events and kind of the kind of wider industry, so legislation, yeah, key events, that kind of thing. So it's always good to kind of keep abreast of current affairs in the week or so leading up to your interview. And then the interview will close with you having the opportunity to share any kind of information, any kind of key things, burning things that you kind of haven't quite got the chance to answer throughout the interview. And then finally, we'll close with the interviewers just asking if you've got any questions before confirming the next steps. So after your interview, typically you'll hear back in 2 to 3 weeks from the CIWEM from the CIWEM membership team, and then have your results then. Again, hopefully it's good news for you, but if it unfortunately is bad news, the membership team will be in touch slightly later down the line after that kind of informal notification, after that initial notification. You'll receive formal acceptance after our following professional standards committee meeting, where the results of your interview are ratified. So if it is unfortunately not the best news, after that point we'll provide you with some more detailed feedback on your interview and perhaps the competencies where you need to look to improve on. And again, if that is the case, we can look to rebook you into your PRI and review your application later down the line whenever kind of you're happy to do so. So I think that covers the PRI process.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Sophie. Now, if anyone feels like they've missed something, fear not. We are recording this webinar and it will be made available online as soon as possible. Furthermore, everything you need to know is on our website, and you'll also be able to download all the guidance documents that we have on pretty much everything from how to apply to the mandatory competencies report, and these are all available for download once you've opened an account. And also we're with you every step of the way. So if you do have any questions or concerns, then please do not hesitate to contact membership@ciwem.org, or equally, if you prefer to contact us directly, then you can also call us at that phone number on the bottom of your screen. I feel like this has been a very useful topic of interest to many audience members, and we're very pleased to have been able to put on this webinar. Thank you also to Sophie for joining us today. Would you like to make a closing statement highlighting any key sort of take-home messages for our audience?
I think I'd really just reiterate what you just said, Barbara. Any questions you have along the way, we're really here to answer those. Get in touch with us with whatever kind of method works for you, and we can help point you in the right direction, give you the additional support that you might need, and just help you along the way so you can achieve the goals that you're looking to get.
Okay, thank you very much. I think on that note, we will now draw this webinar to a close. We hope you all enjoyed the presentation today. If you do have any feedback or topic suggestions for future webinars, we are hoping to make this webinar series a monthly feature, and are always looking for new topics that might be of interest to potential members or already existing members. So do get in touch if you have any ideas, and contact the membership team. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us today. Thank you also to Sophie, and we hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Barbara. Bye-bye.
Bye.